go! Safety! Safety! Cut forward! Cut forward! Get it! Drop! Hey! Hey! Toss! Toss! Get closer. Bounce the move. Angle, angle. You go. Play Tyson there. He's not on. You got to hit him. Boys, boys.
Last time I did this little section was maybe it's the club.
Get out to him! Fire! Come on, over! Over! Phil! Aruna, line!
Go, ball.
Play! Come on, Tim. Time! You got the ball in the keeper there. Fires! Stop! Christian! Play! Hey! Clear, line, corner! Lino! Time! Christian!
Good job. Good innings, Kai. Well done. Great for your food for that one. Well done, Christian. Maybe, right?
get my book there. Boys, someone get my book there. Afterwards, when I get home, I'm fucking in pain. Yeah. I've got this all the injuries. All the injuries. So we do it like we did last time, mate. Just bounce off each other. Sounds good, I like that. Right? Because you know your mob. Yeah. Well, I know mob. Well, what I'm saying is... I did them last week, yeah. You did them last week, so you got a better idea than me. But that's fine. Yeah. I sort of know most of the players. I've only done 5 games all year, mate. How come? Because I can't do Friday games. Yeah. I get picked all the time. Oh, really? Because I can't do Friday. I can only do Sunday. And apparently there's a few other guys in the same boat. They always give me... And I was supposed to do the nights against Oakley. Yeah. And it's been rescheduled and I can't do it. Oh, wow. Because they, you know how the flooded around? Yeah, it was flooded. So now, even though my name's, if you have a look at the thing, my name and that them guys in there, yeah. But I can't do it, so someone else has got to do it. I'll run our intro tonight. I've got some work on Yeah.
Well, as we edge closer and closer to the winter months, it'll get chillier and chillier. However, things will begin to heat up out there on the pitch, as we'll see two teams who are fighting to stay away from the relegation zone. It is the Port Melbourne Sharks taking on St Albans Dynamo in round 20 of the NPL Victoria men's competition. It is the 41st meeting between these two clubs, dating back to their first... It is great to be with you. What can we expect here this evening?
Absolutely brilliant to be with you, Stefan. And what we can, I'm really excited about this clash here because two teams desperate to avoid going down to the second tier, and both teams are actually in form, and you can't ask for more than that coming in towards the clash here today. So the lineups for Port Melbourne is Luka Romic. Number 2 is Mark Latsis. Number 4 is Riyad Moyed. Number 7 is Delano Ferro. Number 8, Maker. Number 9, Aidan Brown. Number 11, Liston Diaz. Number 12, Mitch Trachevsky. Number 16, Jonathan Vakirzis. Number 17, George Mells. Number 20, Will Gillingham. And the lineups for the St Albans Saints. Number 1, Marko Bulic. Number 2, Gideon Arok. Number 3, Alec Millis. Number 4, Jerome Sharan. Number 5, Fletcher McFarlane. Number 6, James Xithas. Number 7, Lucas Byrne. Number 10, Oliver Dragasevich. Number 13, Joseph Kalina. Number 18, Joshua Kulisevsky, as the ball gets played forward. A chance here for Diaz, and the keeper mops up. Number 18, Joshua Kulisevsky, and number 20, Joshua Divan.
So the lineup for St Albans, unchanged after that impressive victory that they had last week against the Cannons. Fitting enough considering how strongly they played. Oakley put up a strong fight, but at the end of the day, it was Dynamo who were just a stronger side. Can they replicate it here tonight? And this man, right on cue, Gideon Arok, he was sensational last week. Put on a performance like no other in the back line. Was really a star player in the back line. Josh Divan as well. A big force up forward. Quite a unit, in fact. Not the smallest of players out there, so he'll be one to watch out for Dynamo. However, Port Melbourne, I mean, they're looking strong as well, especially after that win last week against Victory. And how can you not love this man in goal, Luka Romic? Multiple Team of the Week nominations on the NPL Victoria Team of the Week. So he's been strong, as might have an opportunity here for Dynamo. Ball's going to be crossed in inside for Gulevski, and not quite there. Luka Romic once again managing to be there at the right time. Here might come the Sharks in transition. Arok doing a very good job at stopping that line of attack by Liston Diaz. Last time me and you did a game, Arthur, it was South Melbourne versus Port Melbourne, and Liston Diaz put on an absolute brilliant display, he did. So I'm sure he'll try to replicate the same thing here this evening.
And not to mention that he scored a double last week as well. So he scored a double in that game. So I think he scored about 3 doubles this year, which is quite brilliant for him. Liston has
had a very, very good season. And up until today, it's scored 17 goals since last season, which is a pretty good return. Referee allows, no, he brings it back in the end. Free kick to the Saints. Referee not allowing that ball to travel. They're playing early. They're not mucking around here. Kalina plays it across. Trying to build up. And Port Melbourne, since the change of coaches, has picked up 8 points and done a lot better than what they had done in the first 10 or 11 games. So the new coach has brought a great breath of fresh air to this Sharks team. Not to mention they've just got back one of their stalwarts as Saints go forward. Trying to twist and turn here. Can they get the ball back into the box, into the danger zone? Changed over to Arok. Arok meticulously trying to find an opening. And as you said, Stefan, some quality play there. You can see already that he wants to put his mark on this game as Port Melbourne try and go forward. As I was saying earlier, a couple of new faces for Port Melbourne and for St Albans. Port Melbourne, George Mells comes back to the side after being at South Melbourne, and also Will Gillingham has come into the starting lineup. And number 12, as the Saints go forward, free kick outside the box. Lachlan Weir and 19 Sean Rozvidzov come into the fray for St Albans.
So we have our first free kick of the evening, and it will be Dinamo's. So we'll look to see what they can make of it. Arthur mentioning the couple of additions for both sides. George Mells back into the squad for Port Melbourne. And Will Gillingham, well, the former University of California player, was actually named in the New Zealand Under-23s Olympic squad. However, this is a possible shot that won't be good for Dinamo. Dinamo played a lot of transition ball last week. Couldn't quite make enough connections. Really made a couple sloppy passes last week. That was really what let them down in that first half. Obviously, that first half performance ended up in 0-0 against the Cannons. However, they could have had a couple on the board with the amount of opportunities that they had. However, converted beautifully in the second half. Here come Dinamo now in transition. What can they make do of it this time? We're just going to be tipped around on that far side. Here's Arok. He's already done a fantastic job. Gulepski on the near side. Going to send it down the line. Tried to go to Dragicevic. Dragicevic's kick was slowly picked off. And here's Zidius right on cue. Going to try cross it in. And a close attempt there inside the box for Dinamo. A good looking shot at that, but it was offside. Referee had the hand out and the flag out. So even though it was a good looking shot, it won't be counted for Dinamo. So this will be interesting to see how both these two teams fare, considering it is the 41st meeting between these two sides. Port Melbourne have been the lucky beneficiary whenever these two teams have played against one another. Will it be the same tonight? Gonna have to wait and find out. Here's Zidius. Back off to Arok. Just gonna tip it around. This pitch, somewhat the same, just like Churchill Reserve for Dynamo. So I'm sure it won't get much taking used to. So the ball just going to be tipped around now into the back line for Port Melbourne. And now back out to Romic, who's going to clear it out to Muyet, the former North Sunshine Eagles player. Doing a fantastic job in the back line. Curtis goes forward, and that one won't be any good. But Port Melbourne going to elect to go quickly here. And instead it'll be Dynamo's ball.
Yeah, wasted ball there. Really should have done better with that. As Stefan said, both sides really trying to fill out each other here. And you could sense it that Port Melbourne are playing with almost like a five-man defence, but really intend on trying to get St Albans on the break. As Arok puts the ball deep, and a good ball at that. Chance now. Referee has given the free kick. Fair enough. A chance now. Not too far from the ball there. And I think it's Kalina who's over the ball. Midfielder, very famous name. Getting it into the box, and chance now. The Saints. Deep ball. Nowhere there. Xidis getting it in the box, and in the end, the goal kick given. And really, I like the way James Xidis is trying to get into this game. He's not scared in going forward. And very reminiscent of his old man, actually. His dad was one hell of a player. And no doubt has matched every bit of his father's great play for the former East Altona winger. Arok being allowed to move the ball at will at the moment, but Port Melbourne really condensed in the defensive lines. Chance again. It's, as I said, there's Xidis again. Xidis opening up, trying to find a way. Arok. Ball forward, Kulisevsky. Xidis. Great work by him. Quality stuff. Here he is. The shot across goal. Oh, that's gone inches wide. And still in play. Really, no one there for the Saints. Could have been 1-0. But thankfully for the Sharks, wasn't the case. Arok plays it forward. Again, Xidis. Really no pressure on the ball at the moment. And now it is. And good work there to get the ball away from Kalina. And a chance now for the Saints. Twisting and turning. The 1-2! Oh, that is inches wide. Stefan, what a great move.
St Albans Dynamo are looking really, really strong right now. I mean, that was such a close one. But how about the play before? James Zidius managing to tiptoe his way right around the defenders, picking his way through. And as you mentioned, there wasn't anyone home, but that was millimetres away from going inside of the goal, and that one was as well. So this is the way that Dynamo played last week. I was on the call last week, and boy, did they play exactly like this. They just struggled to put the finishing touches on the cake here, but Port Melbourne are going to look to try and respond and give one attack of their own. Here's Liston Diaz ahead of the ball. Mistimed his kick, unfortunately. And just like that, the defensive prowess of Gideon Arrock proving a little bit too much with a beautiful stop inside, putting too much pressure on Liston Diaz. So the beautiful couple of plays there from both sides. And if this is just the start of the evening, well, I mean, we've got a lot more of this coming quickly. Looking at all the football happening right around Melbourne. Heidelberg taking on Dandenong City. That game is at halftime. Heidelberg lead that one 1-0. South Melbourne against Hume City. That one's also at halftime. South Melbourne lead that 1-0. 2-1 for Green Gully and the Altona Magic. A 3-0 lead for the Oakley Cannons against the Preston Lions. Unbelievable. That's only 13 minutes into the game. The exact same starting as this game. The exact same timing. So there was no crowd allowed for that game. It was meant to be behind closed doors. But at this rate, I don't think there's any crowd affecting the way that either one of those two teams playing. So nevertheless, back to the action though as Farrow clears it off to Diaz. Diaz going to try and cross it in inside. A very close attempt there indeed for Port Melbourne. Denied on that attempt, just like prior. And Port Melbourne have something brewing here. Aidan Brown was on the receiving end of that, but just couldn't quite make the finishing touches on it. So we're going to have George Mells to take possibly the first corner for Port Melbourne here. Let's see what Port Melbourne can muster up here. Hand goes up, and so does the cross. He's going to rise up inside the box. The players did, but not quite on that attempt. Both teams look to slowly be starting to settle down into this one. Curtis to throw it in. Muyep, who in my opinion is really making a name for himself here in this NPL competition, a former VPL 2 and VPL 1 player. I think he's doing a great job in that back line for Port Melbourne. He's going to be one to watch out for. So this could possibly be something here for the Sharks. Farrow with a beautiful through ball down inside to Diaz, but Bullich doing a great job at stopping that one. Here come Dinamo now in transition. And it's a beautiful stop there by Will Gillingham. You can see why Port Melbourne signed him. Making himself a real big prowess inside along too with Mitchell Trajewski. Here come the Sharks once again. That one denied. Maker. Dinamo still has it. Once again, Gillingham again at the right spot at the right time, managing to clear that one off. Farrow doing a great job over there on that far side, putting the pressure. Here he is again. Try to through ball it off to Aidan Brown, but couldn't. All just being won and lost between possession at the moment. Could this be an opportunity for Dinamo? Going to clear it out. Off to Jerome Sharon, who scored his debut goal last week against the Cannons. And you can tell the aggression really starting to settle in here. Arthur, what have your thoughts been early on here?
Yeah, I like the way the game's turning out. You can see that Port Melbourne's gradually gotten into the game. And as you said, had it not been for Bullich coming out nice and swiftly there to get the ball, it could have been, you know, Port Melbourne's opening score, but the better chances have obviously gone to St Albans Saints, and they are definitely here to try and prise open the Port Melbourne defence, and Gillingham has done quite well for the Sharks. Dragicevic plays it back. Back to Arok, who now is getting charged down a little more. He had too much time on the ball early on. Charan plays the ball wide. Chance now. Good defending. But still, the Saints chisel their way forward. Xithias. And play on, said the referee. Port Melbourne now going up in numbers. Pharaoh. Central. Chance now. Mel's plays it. Nice chance. Can they get the shot on goal? Not what you call the greatest clearance. Pharaoh overran the ball. Diaz! Oh, that just swerved away. And that was a chance gone begging for Port Melbourne. Really out of nothing. Pharaoh did quite well to try and open up the play there. And Diaz, we know what he can do. He's scored some pearlers here this season. And the ball goes wide. Playing, just on 15 or so minutes. And still no goals here. And, the Saints, again, trying to play the ball out of the back. And this time they are not being allowed to play it at will because they're getting pressed by the Sharks. Bit of work there to get around there, Brown. A lot of running in his legs. He's been chosen for today's game. Diaz letting Arok. And now the press is back on. Maker. Not the clearest of balls, but still. Chance really should have done better with that. Latsis. Maybe held on to it a little bit too long. Initially, the crowd has built up here now. And a little bit healthier than what it was early on. I know it's a bit of a cool night. There's a few games on today, as we said earlier. And the surprise, as the ball gets sprayed wide. And that was a good ball too. It's still in play. As the ball headed to safety. Or is it? Port Melbourne trying to find a way through that solid St Albans Saints defence. And the goal kick there. Stefan, some potential forward thrust here for Port Melbourne, but it's pretty even at the moment.
100% is pretty even at the moment, Arthur. I would say the battle is between the midfield at the moment. Who can really clear that ball through and actually have a real good shot at the goal? Because at the moment, it seems that both defences are playing extremely well. So we're going to have to wait and find out, obviously, as the match unfolds. And we've just been given a little update about that matchup that's happening at Jack Edwards Reserve. It is 4-0 between the Oakley Cannons and the Preston Lions. What a lead that they're brewing. I mean, no fans, but at the moment, this is all Oakley that are mustering up that scoreline that they're having. Still 1-0, however, between Heidelberg and Dandenong City. Still 1-0 as well between South Melbourne and Hume City. And it's also half-time between Green Gully and the Altona Magic. And obviously 4-0 at Jack Edwards Reserve at the 20-minute mark of that game. That is a whopping scoreline. And right here at JL Murphy Reserve, well, we are yet to see a goal, but however, we are seeing some really exciting football. Could it be an opportunity? Not quite. With shots like that and opportunities arising from those, I definitely think we'll be seeing a mirage of goals this evening. Not only from one squad, but from both. Here comes Dynamo in transition. Could it be an opportunity inside the box? It wasn't quite meant to be that time. Player was down in the box, but the referee saw otherwise. For Curtis. Clearing it well by Mells. Make up. And Farrow. Connecting well. Latsis as well. Nice to give it a through ball off to Maker. And a little bit of a derby game out there for Fletcher McFarlane, the former Port Melbourne Shark. Played back in the day for the Sharks, and he's out there playing now in a white uniform. So, speaking of him, here he is right on cue, Fletcher McFarlane. Played back in the day. I'm sure Arthur will know a whole abundance about him. And now playing for the Dynamo outfit, one of the key players in the defence. And so is this man, Liston Diaz, putting Arok under a whole lot of pressure and kicking the ball straight into the midsection of Marko Bulic. What a shot that one was, Arthur.
And in the end, you'd have to say that's a chance gone begging. Probably the chance of the game. Open goal, one-on-one with the keeper. Marko Bulic stays firm and it was shot straight into his groin, and no wonder the referee, has rightly so, has pulled up play. Quite uncomfortable for him, but well done to Marko Bulic. He's been very solid so far today. And as you said, it can only hold the ball to such a time that Gideon Arok almost punished there, and he's been faultless so far. But that press is starting to linger for St Albans as Port Melbourne go forward again. And stolen here. Chance to go forward. See this? Played back by Kalina. Arok. McFarlane plays it wide. You can see they're not rushing things here. St Albans, they're trying to create some room. Now, this is where it's dangerous. Arok does quite well. Pass just slightly out of the reach. And in the end, Port Melbourne find the throw. Very impressed with Arok here today. In very, very good performance so far by him. Very entertaining game as the Saints go forward. Chance into the box. And it's a corner. Second corner of the game. And St Albans have a chance now to try and put Port Melbourne into a lot of pressure. And we know that the Sharks are a little vulnerable in these positions in the last few games, specifically around the young goalkeeper Tomic. Curling ball, and it's in. Oh, is it? It's cleared off the line. My Lord, I thought it had gone in and somehow cleared off the line. It almost seems like, Stefan, that it was miskicked by the St Albans player.
I think possibly, and another opportunity, unfortunately slipping for Dynamo. Zidius, though, turn around, tries to get it. Jerome Sharon is inside the box, gives it a shot. Once again deflected. All these shots are just being stopped by Port Melbourne. The will of this team by the Sharks. They're smelling blood right now, and at the moment, nothing is being allowed past the line. I thought almost certainly that was a shot that went in for Dynamo, but Port Melbourne somehow finding a way to keep it from being beyond the line. And there's the shot and the opener. Joseph Cholina gets the first in this one. And Dynamo take the lead 1-0. What a goal that one was. Opening backwards and forwards. And Dynamo take the first.
Great goal by Cholina. And in the end, yeah, you'd have to say they deserved that after 2 clearances off the line. And the visitors are 1-0 up here. And Captain Kalina has opened up the score for St Albans Dynamo. And the away fans are very, very happy here. And now Port Melbourne have it all to do to try and get into this game. Try and create some pressure here to try and get the equaliser. Chance now. Need to try and get Mel's more into the game, because every time Mel's has touched the ball, they've looked dangerous. And a kick behind play has seen the free kick to the Sharks. And it was a great finish in the end. I thought Tomic did enough to close the angle down, but it was a great strike by Kalina. And in the end, St Albans reaping the rewards of a great finish. Port Melbourne now have it all to do. They can ill afford to allow this to slip away. Playing forward, Diaz. Well done there by Arok. Twisting and turning. And that's a good ball forward. A chance now. Chardon. The chance again. Surely. Great save. Oh, it's in. 2-0. What a tremendous finish. And St Albans. What a super finish. Josh Diven has made it 2-0. Diven has had the first shot saved by Romic and the rebound put away. And all of a sudden, Stefan, what do we have here? 2-0.
What did I just see, Arthur? That has to be the goal of the week. If it isn't, I think we've been robbed. That was an unbelievable goal by Josh Diven. I spoke about him earlier being such a presence up forward, and boy, is he giving it right now. What an unbelievable shot. Somehow on the tightest of all angles, managing to find the netting. I thought he had the first one well and truly sorted, but unfortunately just not meant to be that first one. So instead he decided to make life even harder for himself. But just putting that one straight into the back of the netting. That's his 4th goal of the season. Joseph Kalina, who scored the first, that's his 2nd of the evening. And looking ahead at all the other scores as well, giving you a bit of a score update. It's 1-1 at the moment between Heidelberg and Dandenong City. Score remains 1-0 between South Melbourne and Hume City. Scores are tied at 2 apiece between Green Gully and Altona Magic, and it remains 4-0 for the Oakley Cannons at Jack Edwards Reserve. So plenty of football action. And as I mentioned, it being a little bit chilly tonight, things are definitely heating up, not only here at JL Murphy, but right around Victoria. Football is in its prime right now, round 20 as well. Still got a couple more rounds to go before we hit finals. And obviously the coveted Doherty Cup. And then, of course, the Australia Cup round of 32. Draw was revealed on Wednesday, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. The Curtis tries to cross it in. Here's Mel's, though, managing to be there at the right spot at the right time. Ball's going to be chipped over the back. Play it down for Port Melbourne. Card or referee not going to count it. It was Mark Latsis who was down inside. And instead, here come Dynamo now in transition. Could it be another one? Could it possibly be 3 in the first half? They've had their opportunities. Ball's going to be crossed in. It was leading towards the back at Jerome Sharon, but wasn't meant to be that time. And ball is just being tipped around here at the moment. This game is starting to become very, very intense and exciting. You can tell a relegation battle means that consequences are going to come for both of these sides. And the way that we look at it, actually, there are 5 teams on the chopping block that are separated within 9 points. Let me rephrase, actually. There are 5 teams that are separated within 4 points. That is South Melbourne, Altona Magic, St Albans Dynamo, Melbourne Victory, and the Port Melbourne Sharks. They're all separated by only just 4 points. A win for Dynamo, it'll put them 5 points clear of Port Melbourne. Well, a win for Port Melbourne will put them 1 point above Dynamo. So a lot to play for. Dynamo already got the win last week against Victory. So that's a game where they're now tied with points. And next week, Dynamo take on the Melbourne Knights. Ball's crossed in, no one home for that one. And then the following week after that, actually, Dynamo take on then Melbourne Victory. So interesting fixture still to come, and the ball just being lobbed around at the moment here. So things are starting to get hot towards the back end of the season. Arthur, what are your predictions at the moment? Both teams playing pretty well. What could you predict that the rest of this game is going to have?
Oh, well, you wouldn't count out the Sharks. We had seen them here being 2-0 down against it was Altona Magic, and in the end they scored 3 goals and got the lead, and only just conceded a goal in the last minute to get the equaliser. So, look, the home side's always going to try and fight their way through it. There's plenty of time. Let's not kid ourselves. But having a 2-0 lead and being the away team is always going to be a lot more easier for the visitors than the home side. But I think there's a long way to go in this game. And you'd have to say Port Melbourne really would like some reward for their efforts in this half, but St Albans are not allowing them to get possession of the ball, and that's what is the difference at the moment. The possession that St Albans have had has been very, very good. And the referee allowed play on, and he's pulled it back. It's maybe a little bit harsh there, but I thought there's a possibility that Vakritsis did get the ball before. But in the end, the referee made the decision and was allowing the play on, but the free kick was given to the Saints. Great to see that forward thrust again, and St Albans have been really positive when they're going forward, and that's been the difference in the end. Whereas Port Melbourne has tried to get St Albans on the break. St Albans have been building up their play from the back, and apart from one stage in the middle of this half where they were pressed by the likes of Diaz and Brown, they've gone back in their shell and not found the way through at the moment. St Albans now trying to find the way forward. Played the ball back to Tomic. Tomic wouldn't be happy about that goal that was conceded early. He did try and save that earlier one. The second one that went in, he did make a great save, but the rebound was absolutely brilliant. As Stefan told us, he was from the most acute angle possible, and the referee in front of the ball there for Maker. Stefan, it's desperate times at the moment for Port Melbourne.
It definitely is desperate times, but then again, they still have such a strong attack, and that man, Liston Diaz, is slowly becoming one of my favourite attackers up front. Just the way he plays, I've seen him on a number of occasions already tonight, just get really eager behind the football and get really etchy to try and really make his mark in this game. And another missed opportunity there, but unfortunately for Dynamo, it is still Port Melbourne's ball, and a corner coming here again So we'll see what Port Melbourne can muster up, obviously. Never say never. Still a whole another half to go here. But we have a corner coming in here. So what can Port Melbourne do on this attempt? Just going to wait for the referee to give the whistling for the all clear. And here we go. Ball going to be up inside. Managed to be cleared away by Bulic. And it was actually Trajčevski who managed to just kick that one away. Revisiting some of the scores that we've had already. Heidelberg currently lead now 2-1 against Dandenong City. Still a 1-0 South Melbourne lead against Hume City. Still 2-2 between Green Gully and Altona Magic. Another team, Altona Magic, on the chopping board. Oakley still lead at 4-0. And we're still 2-0 here at J.L. Murphy Reserve. I still can't get over that 4-0 lead at the moment for Oakley at home. Never would have thought that that game would have been 4-0 already. And some of those goals that they've already kicked have been very impressive. Asad Kasumovic, the former Adelaide United player, already kicked 2. Adam Duratovic kicking the 1. And Matthew Dench kicking 1 as well. So those are the goal scorers for Oakley if you are interested. However, our attention is right here. Could it be another opportunity? And from well distance that time, not meant to be for Dinamo. Maybe their luck might have ran out after that goal by Josh Diven on the acute angle. Here's Diaz, though, in transition, who's got Arok on him. Arok not giving him any breathing space whatsoever inside that box, pushing him right out, and it will be a corner coming here for Port Melbourne. And what can they do of this attempt here on the corner? Could it be another one for them? Last time out when these two teams played, Port Melbourne had 3 corners. Dinamo had the 4. So another one here for Port Melbourne. For Curtis. Getting ready to take the corner. Ball is up. Bullish managing to clear it out. For Curtis. Second attempt inside the box. Maker was on that one right under the ball. But Arthur, just a couple of these opportunities for Port Melbourne not managing to go.
Yeah, no doubt about that. But Bullic really shouldn't have punched that ball. It was clearly no one around him. Should have had a clean catch, but gave it straight back to Mel's to try and get the ball into the box. As clumsily challenged there by Latzis. And free kick to St. Albans. Bullic has had a really good game. You don't want to be missing chances to catch the ball and nullify any attempt for Port Melbourne to try and get back into this game. And that's going to be very, very important for him, because he's going to be the man between Port Melbourne getting back into this game and St. Albans winning the game. Good ball forward. Diaz. And that's a corner. And as we could see, as Stefan said, some very, very passionate play there by him. He's really looking dangerous at all occasions. And you'd have to say that the fact that Port Melbourne has gotten back George Mells can only help Liston Diaz with shots on goal, because getting the ball from the midfield to the forward line was always a problem for the Sharks. But now there's options aplenty. Deep ball in the box. Cleared away. Great header away, in fact. Another ball deep into the box. Not the greatest of clearances. And now marshalling his troops away is Bullic. Diaz. He's done well. A little bit too deep, though. Still in play. And bit too deep there. Overrun the ball. And a chance there. Somehow Arok clears it away from danger, and ultimately, I think it was Alec Mills that lost the ball there and put Port Melbourne into a position where they really could have and should have done better with that. Arrock cleared away, rightly so. Curling ball, the header, and still in play. Referees allowed play on. Twisting and turning. The shot, oh my Lord, that's gone way over. And to the young kids that are playing this beautiful game of ours in the back. And picturesque background there with the 4 blue cranes. And a lot of works here at in Port Melbourne and down that Beacon Cove. A brilliant area to live in. An old fishing haunt of mine, Stefan, you'd like to know?
Now that you've told me that, you've got me intrigued for more. I think we might have to go for a fishing trip one day, Arthur. Maybe you look like you got a good catch on you. Catch a couple good snappers out there. So at the moment, still 2-0 here at JL Murphy Reserve. However, as of late, it has been all Port Melbourne. A couple of attacking opportunities that they've had, just not managing to make any one of them count. The Dinamo defence just proving to be a little bit too strong at the moment. However, don't discount Liston Diaz, that's for sure, with the amount of attacks that he's had. If he starts firing, wait until you see how well he plays, especially when one goes in. Boy, is he hard to stop. Here's Dinamo, though. They've done a superb job thus far. Dragicevic managing to thread it through beautifully. Back off to Dragicevic. He's inside. He's going to take a shot. Deflected again by Gillingham at the right spot at the right time. Bit of a tussle going on there. Referee electing not to call it. It was between Maker and Joseph Cholina. So far, it is becoming a very, very interesting game. No matter what the scoreline is, if you had a look without the scoreline, you'd say it's a pretty even game thus far. The referee, in the meantime, also indicated for 2 additional minutes of added time in this first half. Muyet with a beautiful play. Going to try to go down the line, but wasn't quite able to. Here's Zidius, who's been phenomenal in the back line, along to with this man, Gideon Arrock, shutting down a lot of the Port Melbourne attack. Port Melbourne have been struggling. Aiden Brown trying to keep it alive. Dragicevic goes down to the deck. And it will be Dinamo's ball. So interesting to see how Port Melbourne will come into the second half. What mentality will they have? Obviously kicking towards the goal-scoring end of the pitch thus far. BC, interesting to see how they go. How do they exploit the defense of Dinamo? Because at the moment, the defense has been so strong. Ball just going to be pushed back. Here's Arrock, and here is Liston Diaz putting the Jets on. Putting a whole lot of pressure on Arrock and Bullich he was. Here's Zidius. Back off again to Arrock. He's going to go to Dragicevic, who was surrounded in a blue sandwich of Port Melbourne players. Fletcher McFarlane, another former Port Melbourne player that I mentioned earlier on in the coverage, playing against his old side now, part of the St Albans Dinamo outfit. Be interesting to see how he keeps going as well. He's had a bit of a quiet night tonight. And that will be half-time here at JL Murphy Reserve. A very, very exciting first half for both sides, even though the scoreline does suggest it is 2-0 for Dinamo. It has been both sides attacking on a number of occasions. As we go into half-time, after that very exciting 45 minutes, it is St Albans Dinamo 2, Port Melbourne Sharks 0.
can't keep them down.
They don't even have Joe Dessler on. So that's crazy.
K-Mobs. He knows kids?
Like, he always gets it. Yeah, but it's not that, mate. You know, like when the finals come. Yeah. I gave up. I didn't even bother picking up. When they rang me to do the first final last year, I go, mate, I'm in Sydney. I say, no. I'm in Adelaide doing the Royal show. You never fucking put me in the other place. And I'm the most experienced commentator here. Yeah, I know. Like over this year, it's been frustrating, mate. Like I was literally thinking.
Oh, is it?
Don't be like that, you put a whole stack of new commentators in, and you're giving them more work than you're giving me. What's the fucking logic in that? So it's got to be like that. I'll go aside. That's not fucking, but I just like doing it, you know? Yeah. I could have turned around and made it an issue and talked to the right people. Yep. You can bring us in.
And here we are again, second half at SS Anderson Reserve. And Port Melbourne staring down the barrel of 2 goals from the St Albans Saints. 1 goal by Kalina and that brilliant goal by Diven to get the rebound after the first save. 2-0 to the visitors. It's been an entertaining game, no doubt. No. Yep, it is. It's Anthony Lebens come on. And so has McCloskey. And just trying to get confirmation on who has come off. Looks like it might be Latsis. Yep, and confirm. No doubt now the St Albans would dearly love another goal here to really kill off the game. And there's no doubt in my mind they're going to still push forward and try and get that goal. There's plenty of time left in this game to kill off the game. Maker does well to win that ball. And the chance now to go forward. And Port Melbourne trying to push forward with Brown. Not sure whether Diaz has come off. He's still there. Ilic, no doubt, will try and push forward. Chance to go forward again for the Saints. Not a good ball forward. Maker. Ball pushed backwards. Finding Vakritsis. Still Vakritsis. Did well. The ball's lost now. Chance to go forward by Divin. Divin's got a bit of room. Can he go all the way? The shot across goal. And no one there for the Saints. Really should have done better with that. Divin did all the hard work. No one there to help him in the end. And now Port Melbourne go forward. Good defending to clear the ball away. Vakritsis. Push ball forward. Across goal. And Port Melbourne now looking a little more desperate. Trying to find a way forward. And Vakritsis is really trying to push forward and find a way into the depths of the St. Albans defence. It's really chiselling their way forward at the moment. No real desperation for them because they've got time on their hands at the moment. Divin gets the free kick. And what's your thoughts on this start by Port Melbourne?
I don't mind the start by Port Melbourne. Again, welcome back everybody to J.L. Murphy Reserve. Stefan George with you here, along too with Arthur Akatidis. I don't mind the start from Port Melbourne whatsoever. Obviously tipping around a couple balls up forwards when they have. I think they just got to really, the ball's been hit our scaffolding up here mid-speech. But again, back to what I was saying, I don't mind the way that Port Melbourne are playing, but I think they're really going to have to try and make a couple better openings and really create a couple better openings, I should say, actually, because the way that Dynamo's defense is playing, I don't think they're going to be getting any clear shot attempts. So they're going to have to really try and change up the way they're playing, but then again, not really sure what the talk was at halftime, so we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, early days still in this second half, so plenty more still to come, so we'll see how differently they change compared to the first half. Here's Josh Divin, though, with evading Trajchevski's slide tackle. Ball's inside the box, and once again, ball just being relieved of its duties there inside the box. However, it's still Dynamo's ball. That time, Dragicevic going down, and the ball once again going in our direction. Couple balls being kicked here towards our scaffolding commentary position. However, Port Melbourne got a bit lucky there with Mitchell Trajchevski being at the right spot at the right time. However, the previous attempt from him with that slide tackle, he tried to go on Josh Divin, just didn't quite connect well. So this time it'll be Joseph Cholina to take the free kick here. He already had the opening goal of the evening, so we'll see what he can make do of this one. Possibly to put 3 on the scoreboard. Quite a low arcing kick it was from Cholina indeed. Couldn't quite clear the wall that was in front of him. Here's Dragicevic, who's got Vakirtis for company. Manages to tip away with it. Still Dragicevic inside the box. Trajchevski trying to keep him away, but ran out of space. And it will be Port Melbourne's ball still, so Port Melbourne just getting a little bit lucky with some of those St. Albans Dynamo attacks, just not managing to go in the back of the netting. Score still remains 2-0, so we'll see how Port Melbourne can respond. All it takes is one goal, and the momentum will be shifted. And I have no doubts that hopefully Port Melbourne can try and muster up somewhat of a decent looking attack. They already have been tonight. They just really got to connect with a couple passes and really finish it off well. Here's Mel's and directly in the middle of the pitch. Going to turn around, go straight down to a leading Vicurtis. Farrow managing to keep it alive. Leban, who didn't make the starting lineup this evening. He was in the starting lineup last week against Victory. This time he is subbed in to start this second half. So possibly have a little bit more versatility in the midfield for Port Melbourne. Ball's being crossed towards Diaz. Referee once again electing not to call that one, and that time he does. So a free kick coming up here for Port Melbourne and for Liston Diaz. And we spoke about him earlier on. All it takes is just for him to get one to drop, and you know for sure that he's going to get a couple. Last week he scored both goals for the Sharks in that 2-1 victory against Melbourne Victory. No pun intended. He is, in my opinion, the X factor for Port Melbourne. He's already got 8 goals as well thus far this season. And I'm sure he'd want to play well. And if he plays well, good luck to that Dynamo defence, because he can really turn it on at the click of a finger. So as we wait for this free kick for Port Melbourne, a big 5 or 6 man wall forming directly in front of the goal, not making it easy for Port Melbourne, and more importantly for Liston Diaz, who's their leading goal scorer, who's been so far this season. We'll wait for the referee's whistle. Liston Diaz takes a very low ball, decides to play it along the deck, managing to trip out all the defenders and the entire wall that was made by the Dynamo defenders. Dynamo going to try and go in transition now. Cholina, who's trapped on that far side. Look at the trap going on there between McCloskey and Liston Diaz, managing to trap him right up in that corner. But Arthur, what did you think of that free kick?
Quite simply terrible between you and I. I mean, I can't understand. You're on the edge of the box and you're going for a low shot. There's no need for it. You're not going to get through that wall, and the sea of players. Should have been a shot on goal, make the goalkeeper Bullich work. And no doubt it wasn't meant to be that way, but must have been a missed kick or something. But you need to make the goalkeeper work. And the chance here now for the Saints. Not the clearest of passes there. And as we've said earlier, Stefan, those 3 balls in the box by the St Albans Saints really should have punished Port Melbourne even further as Port Melbourne go forward. And corner ball given. Bullich not very happy with the linesman, and I can't understand why he's having to go at the linesman on the other side of the ground when the referee clearly gave that as a corner, not the linesman. And a chance now for Port Melbourne. No one there for Port Melbourne, and another corner on the other side of the ground. They really need to try and organise themselves a little better, and here it is, the referee having a chat to the goalkeeper and tells him, chill out, boy, and rightly so. Referee's had a pretty good game. Allowed play to go on as the Sharks go forward. Not the greatest of balls. The shot, charged down. Great stuff there. Not a great clearance in the end, but still got a shot on goal. And some good defensive stuff there. A chance now. Port Melbourne! Surely! Oh, what a tremendous save! Fantastic stuff by Bullich. Absolutely brilliant. Not 1, but 2. Really should have been 2-1 there. And really Fantastic stuff. The header. Chance now. And another corner. Barrage here by Port Melbourne Sharks here on the Saints goal. Can they prize open that goal of Marko Bulic? And at the moment, the youngsters done quite well. Curling ball, punched away again. The return shot, cleared again, and yet another corner. Whoa, I tell you what. It's almost really teetering here. Port Melbourne. Deep ball again, a great ball. Why isn't he catching that ball, Bulic? Really dangerous. The goalkeeper's come. Chance to put it into the box. Bulic. Good work. Cleared away just in the nick of time. Some good defensive play. Or is it? Chance now. The Sharks charge down. The shot by Mells. Moving out now. Stefan, this is absolutely brilliant stuff.
Well, I'm telling you what, no matter what Port Melbourne ball comes in, there just seems to be a white player with a white jersey directly in front of the ball, and it's just not allowing that ball to go anywhere near the goal. Port Melbourne, though, definitely the pressure has kicked in the last 5 to 10 minutes or so. Definitely a different team compared to the first half. Definitely starting to rain a lot more shots. So encouraging stuff if you are a Port Melbourne supporter. You're loving the way they're playing. And they're definitely putting Marko Bulic, the youngster, the young goalkeeper, to the test. Now he's going to try and chip the ball inside, but won't be made anything of it. And looking around the ground as well, giving a bit of a score update. 2-1 is the scoreline between South Melbourne and Hume City. The Oakley Cannons, they still lead it 4-0. Port Melbourne, well, we're still here. 2-0 is the scoreline. As back to the action as Delano Farrow going to his right, trying to curl the ball inside the box, and the shot taken goes well over the netting. And to the other two completed games that have happened, we have a 2-2 draw between Heidelberg United and Dandenong City. And at the end of it, Altona Magic somehow managed to get a win 3-2 against Green Gully. A win that they desperately needed, considering that they are on the chopping block in that 10th position above Dinamo. And it was a goal in the 7th minute of added time to seal the deal for the Magic. So a very needed 3 extra points for them. So keeping their season alive, getting them further away from that relegation zone. And the way that things are standing, South Melbourne are going to look to extend their points that they have. And the way that things stand as well, Dinamo look to extend their points as well. So 3 teams, both that are 9th, 10th and 11th at the moment, just pushing out their margin on points on the table. So it will definitely help them down the track, because we do have about 6 rounds left to go here in the NPL competition. Every point matters. Controlled by Laban. Beautiful chest. And the ball just going to be out of play here. And as the remaining fixture looks, Port Melbourne, in the coming weeks, they have to play 5 of the top 7 teams on their home stretch to finish off and conclude their season. Dinamo, theirs looks very different. They only have to play 3 of the top 7 teams. So if you just have a look at the fixtures between the two, it definitely seems that Dinamo have a much easier run to the finish and the conclusion of the season than Port Melbourne do. However, never say never. We could expect a bit of a shock upset, just like we did last week, where Dinamo got that very impressive 3-2 victory against Oakley. And another ball just sailing past the line of attack for Port Melbourne. So Dinamo have been a little bit quiet in the past couple minutes or so. It has been all Port Melbourne And we're seeing it on display here. A beautiful nutmeg going straight between the legs of Alec Mills by Vicurtis. Lucas Burns has been relatively quiet tonight compared to the game that he had last week against the Cannons. He was definitely up and about a lot more. This man, though, he had a sensational game last week and he's having another one tonight. Gideon Arock. He's got to be careful, though, with the way that he's playing. He's already on 9 yellow cards this season, so we'll see how much he ends up with. I think that might be some type of record, that's for sure. It's the most I've ever seen. Here's Vicurtis. Tried to play it shallow to Diaz. Instead it's Trajewski keeping it. They tried to keep it alive for the Sharks, but wasn't successful in doing so. Next week, Port Melbourne. They're going to take on the Preston Lions, who are at the moment trailing 4-0 against the Oakley Cannons as we speak. And for Dynamo, they take on the bottom-placed Melbourne Knights. So that'll be next week in round 21. Interesting to see how things will turn out after this game. Arthur, what have your thoughts been of Port Melbourne thus far, though?
Look, they've opened this second half with a lot more urgency and fluency, and they've had chances, but ultimately they've not found a way through and really need to dig deep at the moment because they're certainly got a long way to go. We've only got, I'd say, an extra 29 minutes left in this game, along with what the referee will give for extra time. So there's plenty of time left on the clock if Port Melbourne are good enough. And some good play now. Maker. South Melbourne have just rewarded themselves with 3 points against Hume as ball gets played across and easily mopped up by Bullich. So yes, as I said earlier, South Melbourne have won a very tight game there. 2-1 down at Lakeside. Altona Magic, as we said earlier, 3-2. Vital points to them. And what we have here is a clash that is certainly one that is giving the visitors what they deserve at the moment. They've had the clearest shots on goal, and in the end, the home side really struggling to try and dent that goal of Bullich. And the substitution ready to occur for Port Melbourne. Deep ball in the box, and Bullich didn't cleanly get it, but somehow mustered it away. 2 substitutions here for Port Melbourne. Looks like Dibbs coming on and Karmas. Offside flag given. Stefan, 2 big substitutions now for these Port Melbourne to try and dig their way, and also a double substitution for the Saints.
Yep, definitely right. A double substitution coming in here. And 2 new players for Dynamo who are coming in. Sean Ruzvidzo is on, number 19, along too with the new signing of Nicholas Kowek. So Dynamo adding in 2 players, along too with Port Melbourne, with Amonham Karmas and Nicholas Dibb. Josh Diven, that's his day done and dusted. Kicked that unbelievable goal he did on that incredible acute angle. No idea how he managed to get it, but somehow managed to. Definitely, in my opinion, going to be goal of the year, but a beautiful little through ball by Rosvidzo. Just going to tip it right back around. Here's Mills. Had his work cut out for him tonight, has Alex Mills. Been working quite the game so far in the back line he has. And boys are showing off with the amount of stops that he's had, along too with Fletcher McFarlane, who's doing a phenomenal job in defence against his former club, his former side he used to wear the colours of. The defence is just looking a little bit too strong for Dinamo. Bit of a press happening here for George Mells. Pressing up Marko Bulic, the youngster. Rusvidzo trying to pressure up Farrow. Farrow tries to cross it in, go straight to Gulevski. Here's Koek putting a little bit of pressure on the defence of Port Melbourne. Karmas, who also made the start last week against Melbourne Victory in that 2-1 victory this time. Starting on the bench. Good to see him on now, though. Luka Romic. Just going to play it a low ball. Go straight over the head of Gulevski. So far tonight, though, Port Melbourne, they've just managed to struggle to put the finishing touch on the cake. They've built the attack up so well and beautifully. It's just that finishing touch that they've struggled to complete, putting that ball in the back of the netting. And that's something that the Dinamo defence should try and commend themselves with, as we have an open goal possibly. A shot taken by Nicholas Dibb, deflected once again. It's been the story of the night here. Whenever Port Melbourne takes a shot, it's just a white jersey in front of them deflecting it. And another substitution getting ready to check into the game. This time, Lachlan Weir, another new signing into the game for Dinamo. He's just waiting for his number to be drawn. However, on the far side of the pitch, ball's in play for the Sharks. It's been a relatively equal game this second half, as a massive shot taken well beyond range. I believe it was Trajevski. And this time, making it official is the substitution, Nicholas Weir. Debuting for his first game for Dinamo. And it looks like it'll be Alec Mills' day done. So in comes Nicholas Weir. Out goes Alec Mills into the defence. What can he do? He's definitely going to need to bring his A game, considering that that defence has been so strong for Dinamo already tonight. Can it remain strong? I'll have to wait and find out. McFarlane plays it to a rock. Ball's still on that far side. Koek. Muyer. Here's Karmas. Romic just holding on to it for a second, in no rush of clearing it away. Here's Dibb, along to with Sharon. Jerome Sharon, who played on the under-23 squad for Dinamo. Scored his first goal, as I mentioned, last week. And he's definitely proving to be quite a solid figure for Dinamo. He's already played in 16 of their games thus far. As here we have Farrow trying to cross the ball again inside the box, but then playing it on the deck once again.
Yeah, some good work there by the Sharks. But as you said, Stefan, that defensive line of St. Albans has really stood tall. And flick on. The shot! And again over. Another corner. Port Melbourne has not had any luck hitting the back of the net here. Mel's again. Good deep service. No one there. The shot charged down again. That wall of Saints players has been immense today. Mel's, and cleared away. Really desperate times here for the Sharks. Mel's again, not the strongest of headers. Away, but still effective. Down the line, in the danger zone. Twisting and turning. Diaz. And in the end, no one there for the Sharks to help him. Kulusevski did well to play it back, but not a good ball central there. Port Melbourne wasting away that shot there, gone way over the top. And in the end, a goal kick to the Saints. Time ticking away for the home side. 65 odd minutes gone. No, correction, 72 odd minutes gone. 18 minutes of normal time left, and whatever the referee allows for time added on. Really, really desperate times for the home side. St. Albans soaking all the pressure up. Great kick there by Bullich. Does well. All St. Albans need to do here is soften any attack up that they receive, and they have been doing that. And really, another goal will be even better for them. You'd have to say, though, at the moment, they're playing the perfect game. A chance here. Played ball, played wide. Curling in the box. And cleared away. Free kick there to Port Melbourne. Yellow cards come out. Ball played to Karmas. Twisting and turning. No one there for Port Melbourne. The thought of a through ball there by Mel's, but no one there for him. Pharaoh really needs to get into this game. He's really been dormant at the moment. He's trying to get in, but needs to show a little more endeavour. You need to chase the game now, son. Ball played forward. And the flag stayed down. And really should have done better with that. Oh, I tell you what. Liston Diaz really should have done better with that. Perfect run. And the referee allowed play on. The linesman said, keep going. And unfortunately overran the ball. Time is really, really desperate at the moment. Looks like another substitution for St. Albans coming up. Mikel Platt to come on as Port Melbourne try and dig themselves out of this hole. Pharaoh. It's like they're trying to attract St. Albans to them, holding the ball in the defensive line. But seriously, they need to take the ball forward to the Sharks. Playing it out around the back now at the moment is time wasting on their behalf. And chance now. Cleared away. Skied way over the top there. Stefan, it's desperate times and desperate measures to behold.
Yeah, you're definitely right, Arthur. And I think you could tell a little bit that it was desperate times because the urgency was starting to kick in a little bit for Port Melbourne. The last couple of possessions that they've had, haven't really had a clear shot on goal. They've kind of just booted it in and kind of prayed for the best. They've kind of just taken a well beyond shot from distance and just tried to kick it anywhere. So you can definitely tell that the urgency is definitely starting to kick in. As you mentioned, desperate times calling for desperate measures. They're just praying for one shot to be put in the back of the netting. Because at the moment, I mean, this is a defense masterclass from Dinamo, doing a phenomenal job at stopping almost every single attack coming in from Port Melbourne. Could we see another one? Here's Diaz, and once again, stopping another line of attack there, another attacking opportunity for Port Melbourne stopped once again. Coming into this game, it was a battle between the defences. Dinamo, they've conceded 39 goals this season compared to the Sharks, who have conceded 44. So both defences not at a desirable level compared to all the other teams in the competition. However, if you have a look at the amount of goals that they have scored, Dinamo have scored 33. Port Melbourne only scoring the 20. And if you put together the goal difference, well, Dinamo sit on -6. Port Melbourne Sharks sitting on -24. And you can tell why they are possibly in the position that they are on the ladder. Looking at the stats, you can tell it's just not great for them. And confirming the substitution, Mikael Platt, who scored the game-winning goal last week against the Cannons in additional time, is going to be coming on for Joshua Gulevski. The former Hume City player, Mikael Platt, now once again checking into this game. The Englishman, definitely no stranger to the cold. Played in his early years of his career in England in the FA Youth Cup, in the FA Cup, in Queen's Park Rangers and Bracknell, and also played for Slough Town in 2023 and 2024 in the National 6th tier over there. So definitely watch out for Mikael Platt playing up front. No stranger to scoring goals, especially with his time in Hume City last season. Scored a goal in the Australia Cup. And the ball just going to be booted away. Wouldn't like to be a car out here parked next to the ground, that's for sure, with the amount of balls that have been booted away by not only Port Melbourne but by St Albans as well. Hopefully everyone's car remains unscathed. And we also have another player getting ready to check into this game. This time, Daniel Serra, just waiting on the sidelines, getting ready to come into this game as well. So I think that might complete the substitutions possibly for the evening after Daniel Serra does check into the game. What an evening it's been, though. Very close, contested matchup. However, I said earlier on in the telecast that St Albans, they have a whole bunch of momentum coming into this game. Their past 4 matches that they've had, they had 3 consecutive, or possibly be 4 consecutive 2-2 draws that they had, 2 of which came against the top teams. They had a 2-2 draw against Avondale and a 2-2 draw against Heidelberg. So definitely seems as though St Albans are peaking at the right time with the way that they're playing. And it's definitely showing out here. They're in a level of their own right now. Playing on a different level they are. Can they maintain it is the question for the remainder of the season. They will take on 3 other top 7 teams. Already took down one of them, being the Oakley Cannons last week. So their strong performance is definitely still on their side. The way they're playing tonight, still here. Fun fact, the win that they had last week was their first win that they had back in round 7 against the Port Melbourne Sharks, where they ended up getting a 3-0 victory. The last time that Dinamo actually won against the Sharks before that they won earlier on in the year, in the 40th meeting, was way back in, get this, Arthur, 2019. That was Dinamo's last win against Port Melbourne. So Port Melbourne have definitely had their number.
I reckon I was here for that game too, and I might have even commentated it. Listen, St Albans have had a perfect game in my mind. They've defended well, and they attacked efficiently, no doubt, scoring 2 goals. Could have had a couple more with Divan breaking the lines and cutting the ball in. No one being there for him, but this second half has been obviously more of Port Melbourne and really trying desperately to try and push themselves forward. And it's been a day of missed opportunities for them, and also coming across Bullich, who has had a super game for St Albans. And all of a sudden, we're looking down to St Albans kicking away to a safer zone and putting the difference between them and Port Melbourne to 5 points. Some chance now for Port Melbourne. Deep ball in the box there. Really should have clipped it in a little bit better. And in the end, a little bit too far. Bit of desperation there by Pharaoh. A little bit too far for fellow teammate. And in the end, Bullich will take his time. We've got 5 or so minutes left on the clock of normal time. And I'd say there'd be 3 to 4 minutes of extra time with the amount of substitutions we've had. Platt, he's done well. Good ball forward. Can he get into the box? Return ball. Oh, and missed completely there. Skevsko trying to win the ball in, and it's still a St Albans throw in, taking their time. Chance now, switching play. Don't want to lose the ball here. And Tomic thrusts himself forward. Needs to go long. He decides to go wide. Sarah. Chance now. It's a good ball forward. Still, again, that strong defensive line. Chance now. Twisting and turning. Free kick. No, the referee's allowed. Play on. Great save there by Tomic. Almost the icing on the cake there. Chance to get it away. And a free kick given to St Albans. Super shot that. Bit of desperation by Tomic. Diving to his right and did well. Again, Stefan, we're seeing really the maturity of this team in the last 4 weeks is shining and shining brightly at the moment, because they really deserve everything they're getting at the moment.
Yeah, you're definitely 100% right, Arthur. The way that Dynamo is playing, it just seems to be working on all cylinders right now. They seem to be, as one of my mates likes to describe, a fine-tuned V8 right now. Question is, though, can they keep it running for the remainder of the season? If they can, perfect, because if Dynamo is going to play like this, it'll be interesting to see how they come out in season 2026. It's a very long way away, but it's encouraging signs for a team that's starting to do well and really light it up in the back end of this NPL Victoria men's competition. Port Melbourne, though, just hasn't quite been their day. No matter what they've done, it just doesn't quite seem to be connecting. And this man, Liston Diaz, he's had a mirage of shots tonight. Hasn't quite managed to get one to go. He's had a couple. one of which he had clear as day in the box in the first half, but went straight into Bullich's midsection. So we're still going to have St. Albans ball here. Be interesting to see how the finals looks going into the remainder of the season as well. I know that's what majority of the people are talking about. However, looking across to the one other remaining game that's still going on at the moment, Oakley still with a 4-0 lead against Preston at Jack Edwards Reserve. A disappointing night for Preston, going down, conceding 3 goals within the first 10 minutes of the game, and then conceding the 4th in the 20th minute. Asad Kasulmovic, he's got 2, the former Adelaide United player. And looking ahead to tomorrow, match of the round between Avondale and Dandenong Thunder taking place at Avenger Park. And then the one other remaining game between Melbourne Victory and the Melbourne Knights. Another very important relegation game for Melbourne Victory. If they go down to that, it will make their season just that tad bit harder to really avoid relegation. Melbourne Knights, though, this is a season that they'll definitely want to forget. Here's Farrow, though, back to the action. Going to give it off to Diaz right downfield, but couldn't quite manage to connect with him well enough. And it was Lachlan Weir. Speaking of Lachlan Weir, when he got subbed in for Alec Mills, I think he's doing a phenomenal job out there right now. Really keeping the defense of Dinamo really active. Here comes the corner in for Port Melbourne, and a close one there, but not quite meant to be on that attempt. And it's been the story of Port Melbourne's night. No matter whatever opportunity they get, just can't quite seem to go in the back of the netting. Either they've been at the wrong spot at the wrong time, and for majority of the night, it has been St. Albans Dinamo defender directly in front of the ball, stopping that ball from coming in. And this young man, I think, has done a phenomenal job this evening. Marko Bulic, the 23-year-old Victorian, actually began his career at Melbourne Victory at 19 years old. He's been claimed as an unorthodox goalkeeper. However, I think the way that he's playing tonight is definitely making his mark among the competition. So we're going to have a throw in for Dinamo on that far side. Arthur, not the best night for Port Melbourne tonight. However, I think it's been Dinamo all evening.
Well, they've just been a little more polished, I'd say, in the end. Port Melbourne's definitely tried to play a little more attacking in this second half, and maybe you'd have to say to yourself, why weren't they doing this in the first half? They really sat too far back in my mind and allowed the Saints to play their game. And ultimately, you'd have to say they're paying the price now. They're continually chasing the game. And they've got 4 minutes left on the clock to somehow dig something out of this. And it's going to be a tough one, no doubt. Should they not get an equaliser pretty soon? Or should I even get a single goal for that matter? Probably had the chance, but as we said earlier, Marko Bulic would be close to getting a vote or two here in my mind, and he's prevented them from scoring, and along with some great defending all round. Port Melbourne going forward now. Diaz, good ball in the box, no one there again. And that is another wasted ball. You'd have to say, really should have done better with that. The throw in is going to the Saints on the far side of the ground. The St Albans Saints faithful there. Very, very happy bunch of lads. Just confirming also that the Cannons have won that game 4-0 at Jack Edwards Reserve. Stefan, it's only a matter of time now where the visitors here, St Albans, will step away with 3 points from JL Murphy Reserve.
Yeah, you're definitely right. We are only about moments away from the Dinamo faithful singing their song once again. But they went on a very long run without singing since the last time these two teams played. And I think it's very fitting with the way that Dinamo have been playing as of late. I think they've been the deserving beneficiary here this evening with the way that they've played. Putting out a lot of stops out on defense. It's been a defense masterclass, as I've described it earlier on. The amount of stops that they've put on. I think Port Melbourne as well, they've dug themselves in a bit of a hole, just giving away so many of the opportunities. But Nicholas Dibb, even though the game might be down and out, putting on a little bit of magic there, getting around his defender. Disappointing, though, for the Port Melbourne Sharks. With the amount of opportunities that they had, they couldn't quite convert one. And back to what you raised earlier, Arthur, if they only play like this at the beginning of the game, maybe it could be a completely different story. So we've got a free kick here for Port Melbourne. George Mells, the former South Melbourne player, now back with his old squad that he used to play for. Didn't have too bad of a night, he did, and you can hear the Dinamo chants breaking through here at JL Murphy Reserve. It only will be a matter of time before this game is completed. Ball will be kicked onto that far side. And that will be full time. The 41st meeting between these two going Dinamo's way. And you can hear the Dinamo chants breaking away here at JL Murphy Reserve. What a game for Dinamo. It was all Dinamo straight from the get-go. Port Melbourne, they weren't really in it up until the start of that second half. Very unfortunate for them, and their season goes from bad to even worse. For Dinamo, though, claiming a very needy 3 points for them. Arthur, what did you think of tonight's game?
Look, it was a very, very entertaining game, I'd say. Pretty lucky for us, and both sides tried to play football, but in the end, I think St Albans Saints deserve the 3 points, and maybe Port Melbourne need to try and look at themselves and just go to Preston Lions next week and try and chisel something out, because it's going to be a tough run home, as you said earlier. Ultimately, 2-0 loss at home is a very bad loss in a day that they really needed a result here, even if it was a draw. And it wasn't to be. St Albans Saints thanking their fans and really coming away with the 3 points. And no doubt in my mind, if they keep playing like this, they will have no way of going down. Congratulations to them. And thank you, Stefan, for the great commentary along with myself, Arthur Akratides. And no doubt we will see you next week for round 21 of the NPL show, and some more great games to come. It's teetering now with finals only 6 rounds away. And thanks again for your company. Thank you and goodbye.